Welcome to Belief Busters Podcast, where we change the world one belief at a time. And we're dedicating this series to changing the world by looking at what are our beliefs around racism, systemic racism, and I want to give you a voice to the conversation. And so I invite you to the discussion. I'm glad you could be with us on this journey of discovery and awakening. This is the conclusion interview with Reverend Ahriana Platten. Thank you for joining us. And that same education that you got, I got as well, right? So I didn't know about the history. I didn't know about, I too was like, Abraham Lincoln's the best president in the whole world, know, freed everyone. And then experiencing the dissonance in the world I walk in with, but aren't we free? Isn't everyone equal? So imagine then walking in the world and realizing, so what I've been taught and what is really happening are completely different, and I remember, I don't think I realized about the dissonance until I was in college, to get that level of awakening. And I'm not sure that we actually call it dissonance, but because of my background, right, and the training that I've gone through and in seminary and whatever else, it's really clear that what people of color are experiencing as they walk the world is just this crazy dissonance. Crazy. So this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And yet I know that when I am driving, I have to be really aware that anytime I can be pulled over. And if I'm pulled over, this is just not a Black male experience. This is also female Black experiences as well. That if I get pulled over by someone who is so prejudiced or racist, my life can be completely different. Just on that person's whim. That's some scary stuff.
Yeah. And as a mother with 4 children, all of whom are boys, to really immerse myself in the stories that have come forward in the last few months, to really, because I have good friends who have Black sons, friends who are white and friends who are Black, who have Black sons, and to immerse myself in that and allow myself to empathetically connect to what it might feel like to have to prepare my child were the roles reversed, to really think about what it means to prepare your child, your young man, your husband, your wife, to walk in a world where your life can be taken like that because of someone's racial bias is just mind-boggling for me. It has just been, I have been in spontaneous tears as I read these stories. As a mother, look at what has to be done to prepare our sons to walk out in the world. I don't ever worry about my sons being pulled over. I have a friend of mine who is Black and her ex-husband is white. And so their son is very fair-skinned. Mm-hmm. There is a back way. They travel back and forth between here and Denver. There is a back way that can be traveled that shortens the trip quite substantially. She told me she can never take that road because that part of town, it's not safe for her to take her children. That her husband can come here and drop the kids off, her ex-husband, but she can never take that road because of the color of her skin. It's mind-boggling. I mean, we see the big stories. We see the deaths and the unconscionable murders, right. But it's not just that.
Correct.
It's every single person of color having to live differently because our country is not safe. And that we just have to change it. And it can only change when white people quit being defensive about it, quit personalizing it, and see it as systemic and cultural, and begin to take the steps to really look at what they believe and to really make the effort to change how each one of us interact in the world. Because it's not just saying I'm not racist, it's saying I'm standing with you. It's saying this isn't okay. It's saying we're not going to tolerate it anymore.
Right.
It's saying our education system has to change. Our Department of Corrections has to change. The way we legislate has to change. The way we run churches has to change. Right? Everything, all of it. And we can't do that one side or the other. We have to do it together.
Correct. One of the things that you said was we inherited this system. You know, we didn't create it, we inherited it. And even with not creating it, the inheriting it means that there are privileges that the system gives to you. But it's in that almost, well, we didn't create it. And I'm not saying that you're saying this, but there's a defensiveness that usually comes up, like when I have conversations with white people regarding when I'm saying it's not you, the individual. We're talking about a systemic way of our country operating that gives people advantage based on the color of their skin. How do you address that? How do we address that?
Boy, I wish I had the answer to that, right? So yes. I think for me, the first thing has been being committed, being willing to be uncomfortable. I am willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to ask hard questions. I am willing to say, forgive me if I'm stepping in it here, but can I ask you this question? Help me to understand. So wanting to change it means being willing to be uncomfortable. Wanting to change it means being willing to be uncomfortable on both sides, right? It's not a one-sided discomfort. There are things that I ask that are not comfortable to be asked. And I have to be willing to ask that. And I also have to, read and do my homework and talk to other white people and do the work that doesn't take my problem and make it bigger than the problem we're trying to solve. Right? I have to educate myself and remember that it is not the job of my Black brothers and sisters to educate me.
Preach.
Right?
Preach it. Yes.
So I can re-traumatize and over-traumatize by even doing that. So being really cautious about that. Learning how we have to learn. And I'm speaking this all from my side of the fence, Cherie, but I have to learn how to say it. I'm really sorry. I said that, I did that, I thought that. That is not the person that I want to be. So help me to shift my feelings. Help me to at least hear me apologize and know that I'm working on this. And we have to reach across culture and recognize culture. So I could tell you things that I think I see in the Black culture that are not the same as mine. Music is different. Church service is way different. There's a lot of things in the Black culture that I appreciate. Food is different. And white America doesn't know what white America is, because white America came from all different kinds of places in Europe. We don't know what our history is. We don't know what kind of trauma and drama made us leave our country of origin and come here. We don't know what kind of brokenness we brought with us. We don't even know why we are the way we are, because we came here and we became American, and we were no longer European. We were no longer Italian. We were no longer, British. We were no longer Irish. We were this melting pot. And so we have to do some homework and figure out, who are we? What can we be proud of in our own culture? Because one of the things that I see so often is how do I define white culture? White culture is a lot of things. I asked someone this and they said, well, white culture is our style of football and our style of baseball and our style of basketball. And I said, that's all Black players. It's not. That is not culture. That is wonderful sport. But what is white culture? And if we don't know what it is and we can't understand it, then we have no comparison and no way to value Black culture. And those two things can complement each other. Our cultures can gain and learn from each other if we recognize, if we do our own homework and figure out who we are. And then we're not trying to make one thing better than the other, right?
Right.
So that feels really important to me. I don't think we're there at the point of doing it yet. I think we're still arguing with people who don't understand the difference between all lives matter and Black lives matter.
Yep.
But I think we'll get to that. I think over time, it takes time to educate people. And I think over time, I think white people will come back around to the question of who am I really? What is my culture? And what does my culture say? I read something recently that talked about the immense love in the Black culture and where that comes from in the roots of the culture, and also where it comes from in the difficulties and trauma of the culture. And as I read it, it moved me in such a powerful way, because all I could see was this is a community responding to hell with love over and over and over and over. Why can we not see that? Right?
Yeah.
Well, because we don't have any culture of our own. We don't know how to appreciate culture because we don't know what our own is. So that feels important to me.
So with all things, it starts from within us, from within the individual, really doing our own self-awareness, our own processing, our own checking our beliefs to determine, are they my parents, my grandparents, my first grade school environment, those teachers? Are those the beliefs that I'm carrying still? Are they mine? Do I want to hold on to them? If they were mine, and I no longer believe that, I no longer see that working for me in my life and the life of those around me, can I give myself permission to change that?
Yeah, so it was a huge thing for me to recognize this thing about second grade, because I realized I have been mad at people of color since second grade.
There you go.
Right? I've been mad because it wasn't fair. And it's the second grader in me whose voice is back here, it's that, it's not the adult person in me, but deep inside me, there's this person that has an anger. And now at this point in my life, and again, it's just shocking to think it's taken me to this point in my life. But now at this point in my life, I can look back at that classroom full of students and say, I had no idea what you were going through. No wonder I couldn't fit in. You were afraid of me.
Right.
I was scary to you. I'm so sorry that you ever had to feel that way. So the awarenesses are they're really mind-boggling.
They are. On the unconscious level, how much it drives us until we awake to that. And then we can do something different, you know? And do you have any last minute or thing that you really feel that would be helpful to people as they're doing this work?
Yeah, so I just learned this thing that I didn't know. So I have this column, and I have, as I was explaining to you before we started the show, I have this newspaper column, and for the last 6 or 8 weeks, I have turned it over to people of color to say, please use this as a place to have your voice heard. What would you like to say? And as I was going through this, several times I had people say to me, Reverend Ahriana, and I would say, oh, it's just Ahriana. Just call me by my first name, it's fine. And about a week ago, one of my featured writers, wrote me a letter of apology for having addressed me by my first name and not using my title. And it suddenly occurred to me how important that title is in the Black community.
Yes.
And I wrote to her and I said, you have opened my eyes to something. You please call me Ahriana. I'm going to use my title with you. I'm going to use your title with you. It is important for people of color to hear doctor, to hear reverend, to hear professor, to be introduced with those words, and to, even in a casual circle, to be recognized for the accomplishments that they've made, because society in general undermines those accomplishments.
Right.
And so when someone comes to me and addresses me with the title, it's because in the Black culture, titles mean you might be heard a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is not important to me to use my title, but it is very important to me to elevate in any way I can the Black voice in our society. And one of the ways that I can do that is by making sure that I use that title and honor the education that a person has, and that I bring that title forward anytime I have the opportunity to introduce someone or bring them into a circle of friends or colleagues. And it's such a small thing, but to me, it was a huge aha, and it feels really important.
I get that. What is the paper that you write for and the name of your column?
I write for the Colorado Springs Independent, and the name of the column is In Good Faith. And you can find out all about it by going to our website, which is ingoodfaithconversations.org. And it's plural, conversations.
Brilliant. And I know that you're the minister over in Colorado. And what else do you do? And how can people get in contact with you?
You can get in touch with me through the website. There's a contact form there, or you can go directly to my personal website, which is ahriana.com, just like it's spelled, Ahriana. If you forget the H, you're going to get Ahriana Huffington. So, which, not me. You have to spell it right. But you can contact me there really easily.
And what's your community's website?
UnityRockies.org.
All right. Brilliant. It has been a pleasure to have this conversation. I feel like we could go on for quite a long time, but I know we both have other commitments, but I see us having another conversation later down the road. I'm just kind of laying the foundation for that.
I would love that. Thank you, Cherie. Thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for just for wanting to have this conversation. Like I said, I feel like a novice. I feel like it will take me years to learn what I need to know to become literate, but I'm in it. You can count on that.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And for our listeners here at Belief Busters, we are committed to having the conversations, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, giving you an opportunity to look at your own beliefs. And guess what? You can change them anytime you choose. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of belief systems. I hope this gives you permission to change your beliefs and subsequently the world. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a review wherever you listen. You can reach me at info@preachitsister.com. I've also written a book, Turning Your Why into Why Not, that gives you practical resources and steps that you can take to continue on the journey of exploring what your belief systems are. I look forward to seeing you next time on Belief Busters Podcast. See you on the flip side.